Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly kind of complex question about goldfish health and high-tech water purification. When we think about giving our pets the absolute best care, we naturally assume that means providing the purest, cleanest environment possible. But in the aquatic world, well, purity isn't always what it seems. So we're going to break down whether reverse osmosis water is actually required for your goldfish and what happens when we try a bit too hard to outsmart nature with technology.
Right off the bat, I want to hook you with a wildly counterintuitive question. Is 100% pure water actually deadly to your goldfish? It sounds like a total paradox, doesn't it? Like, no way. But what sounds like the absolutely perfect, pristine environment, water that's literally stripped of every single impurity, might actually be a lethal trap for your fish. By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand exactly why that is and how water chemistry dictates literally everything about aquatic health.
Okay, let's just dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll start with the quest for purity, move on to goldfish biology and minerals, figure out when RO is actually required, uncover the hidden dangers of pure RO, and finally, talk about remineralization to make it safe.
Part 1. The quest for purity. What exactly is RO water?
So, it's a completely natural assumption to think the absolute cleanest water is the best water. I mean, nobody wants their pet swimming in pollution. So what is reverse osmosis, or RO for short? Well, it's this incredibly powerful filtration process that uses heavy pressure to force tap water through a semi-permeable membrane. By doing this, it overcomes natural osmotic force and rejects up to 99% of dissolved solids. It literally strips the water of almost everything. It leaves you with what aquarists call a blank slate. Zero chemicals, zero minerals, just pure H2O.
Now, when you look at what RO actually takes out of the water, it's super easy to see the appeal. Getting rid of heavy metals like copper and lead that leach from old city pipes? Fantastic. Eliminating toxic nitrates, phosphates, and municipal chlorine? Perfect. But hold on a second. Think about that last point. RO also strips away essential minerals like calcium and magnesium. And this right here, this removal of the good stuff along with the bad, is exactly where our biological problem begins.
Which brings us to Section 2, Goldfish Biology and Minerals, specifically osmoregulation.
To really grasp why pure water is such a problem, we have to talk about a biological process called osmoregulation. Goldfish are what we call hyperosmotic. Basically, their internal body fluids have a higher salt and mineral concentration than the fresh water surrounding them. Because of this, they are constantly absorbing water and losing their internal salts to the environment. It's just a constant battle. To survive, they have these specialized chloride cells in their gills that act like tiny biological pumps, constantly pulling minerals out of the water and back into their bloodstream.
And there is just a massive, stark contrast between these two environments. Think about it. Goldfish evolved over thousands of years in mineral-rich, hard water. Their natural habitat has a really high general hardness, or GH, and a high carbonate hardness, or KH. They heavily rely on those abundant calcium and magnesium ions. But pure RO water? It has 0 GH and 0 KH. It is completely 100% devoid of mineral ions. It's essentially an alien, totally unnatural environment for a goldfish's osmoregulatory system to handle.
And look, these minerals aren't just a nice little bonus, they are absolutely mandatory. General hardness, which is made up of calcium and magnesium, is required for bone and muscle growth. Carbonate hardness acts as a chemical buffer that literally stops the pH of your tank from wildly swinging all over the place. And trace elements, things like zinc and iodine, those power the immune system. Without these specific minerals in the water, goldfish simply cannot develop properly, they can't regulate their internal fluids, and they definitely can't maintain long-term health.
Let's move on to Section 3. When is RO actually required to fix tap water challenges? So if RO strips out all the good stuff, why do people even use it? Well, the crucial point here is that RO is really only strictly necessary if your local tap water is straight up toxic or just mathematically impossible to keep clean. Like, if your tap water has nitrates that persistently sit above 40 parts per million, you can't use it for water changes. You'd just be adding pollution right back in. The exact same goes for heavy metals from aging infrastructure, wildly fluctuating municipal pH levels, or dangerous agricultural runoff. In those extreme cases, the blank slate of RO is a total lifesaver because it gives you back the control.
But there's another major factor to consider: the fish itself. Hardy goldfish like comets and shubenkins are biologically robust. They are incredibly adaptable and honestly thrive in standard, conditioned tap water. For those guys, setting up a whole RO system is usually complete overkill. But fancy goldfish, the ranch shue or the oranda,
They are delicate. They've been intensely selectively bred, which makes them really prone to head growth infections called wen rot and severe swim bladder buoyancy issues caused by even minor pH swings. For these fancy varieties, the absolute precise chemical control that RO water offers is incredibly beneficial.
Now for Section 4, the dangers of pure RO and its deadly consequences.
Okay, it's time for a pretty critical warning about what happens when this technology is used incorrectly. Think of pure RO water like a bag of plain flour. A baker couldn't possibly make a cake with just flour, right? They've got to add the eggs, the sugar, the butter. In the exact same way, pure RO water is just a raw ingredient. It is absolutely not a finished, safe habitat for a fish. If you drop a goldfish into unremineralized, completely pure RO water, the biological consequences are severe, and they happen fast. First up is osmotic shock. Because the water has zero salinity, water rapidly rushes into the fish's cells to try and balance things out, causing those cells to swell and literally rupture. It can be fatal within hours. Second, you get pH crashes. Because there is zero carbonate hardness, there is absolutely no buffer to absorb the natural acids produced by the goldfish's waste. The water turns acidic rapidly. And that leads right into the third point, old tank syndrome. That dropping pH stalls your good filter bacteria, resulting in a lethal spike of toxic ammonia.
Which takes us to our final section, Section 5, making RO safe through remineralization.
So, if you absolutely must use RO water, here is how you do it correctly. 200 plus. That number right there is your target. Specifically, 200 parts per million, or about 11 degrees of general hardness. That is the ideal minimum general hardness target you want to hit to create a healthy, stable environment where your goldfish can actually thrive and properly osmoregulate. Now, what's really interesting is that you basically have two primary, proven ways to safely rebuild your RO water. The first is using synthetic salts. You literally buy commercial mineral buffers, products like Seachem Replenish or Wonder Shells, and dose the pure water yourself. This gives you total mathematical precision, which is absolutely perfect for sensitive, fancy goldfish. The second way is the cut method. This is where you blend 50% pure RO water with 50% conditioned tap water. This dilutes the bad stuff in your tap water, like high nitrates, while keeping enough of the natural, free minerals from the tap to keep the fish healthy. Plus, it's incredibly cost-effective. Let's walk through the actual preparation process, step by step, because this is absolutely crucial. Number 1, you collect your pure RO water in a separate storage container or bucket, never ever directly into the tank. Number 2, because RO water naturally lacks oxygen, you must aerate it with an air stone and heat it to perfectly match your aquarium's temperature. Number 3, you add your synthetic salts or tap water blend to hit those target GH and KH levels we talked about. And finally, number 4, patience and testing. You absolutely must test the parameters of this new water to confirm it's safe before you ever let it touch your aquarium.
So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to remember this. Nature rarely provides the perfect aquatic baseline, and municipal plumbing definitely doesn't. Reverse osmosis is a miraculously powerful tool, but it's just that, a tool. It requires you to roll up your sleeves and act as a chemist to rebuild what you stripped away. So, before you rush out to buy an expensive high-tech filter, grab a test kit. Seriously, what is actually in your tap water right now? Finding that out is your very first step to providing the perfect home for your goldfish. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.